Welcome to TopShot NFT. I'm your host, Jason, and as always, my big man in the corner, Lennox. Welcome, Lennox. And today we've got a great guest, Alex Ness. He is a NFT artist. He recently had a drop on Nifty Gateway that did very well. If you look over Lennox's shoulder, you will see one of the pieces that Lennox was able to pick up. That's doing very well on the secondary market. You had a great drop, Alex. Welcome to the show. Just kind of introduce our audience to who you are, and kind of we'll go from there.
Yeah, what's up? So my name's Alex Ness. I go by NessGraphics online. As you said, I'm an NFT artist. I got into NFTs, crypto art, I want to say in October or so, which feels like a very long time in the crypto world, but it's been a really interesting ride to get to where I am and have pieces doing well. So it's been a roller coaster, to say the least, but happy to be here.
Every time we have one of these shows and we talk to an artist or a TopShot, NBA TopShot is one of the topics we obviously cover a lot about too. And the time space continuum of NFTs in general, what do you think attributes that? Like you said, you started in October, and that's even before we really were exposed to NFTs and at least deep dive. So what do you think attributes to this weird issue with time in the NFT space?
It just goes down to crypto. Like, crypto as a whole is just a very fast moving thing. If you watch the markets, you can see a coin can just go from like $0 to $500 instantly and so on. Like, it's just a very crypto related thing where, again, time is very strange. It does not work how it does in anything else. Like, one day does not feel like a day. It's really strange when you get into it, because it starts to affect your mindset of time in regards of everything else outside of crypto. Like once you're in crypto, a week feels like a month, but it's not just like, oh, my crypto world feels like a month. It's like life feels like that week is a month. It's really strange. So it's been a interesting couple months.
I'm turning 40 in July, and I've had some friends be like, what are you planning for your birthday in July? And I'm like, that is so far away. 3 months is just, it's like, I have no idea where my life's going to be because of, the crypto space. Kind of take us to where, like pre-October, was this something that you just got exposed to, or were like what kind of introduced you and made you decide, like, let's get in on this?
So, I mean, to give a first rundown of like me also, so I work in the music industry usually, right? Mm-hmm. That's what I did for the last 5 years or so, doing like music concert visuals for shows. And of course, 2020 destroyed that, so it was an interesting year. I didn't do very much work. So it was kind of put me in a weird situation. So I started looking around in October or so, or September, because I started to hear NFTs on Instagram, and I saw these two artists, Gavin Shapiro and Kid Mograph, if you've heard of them. They were starting to post about it, and I was like, what is this? And I started looking into it, and I started getting into it. And it's kind of all come from there. You want to say, what was your question one more time? Sorry.
I'm just, before NFTs.
Oh, yes.
Introduced. Yeah. You kind of started at the end. So we'll work back like we're in a Inception or something.
So. Yeah. So before NFTs, I mean, I've been a digital artist since I was about 12 years old. I'm 25 now. So I've just always been doing NFTs. I mean, not NFTs, art. And I've also been in the crypto space for a long time. I have a lot of funny crypto stories, such as I was into Bitcoin, in 2010, and I had 1,000 Bitcoin that I lost, which is sad, because I had it on an old iMac, and I just sold it on eBay and forgot about it. So that was like a $60 million iMac and so on. But yeah, so I've just been in crypto a while, and this kind of just, my two loves of crypto and art just combined into this thing called crypto art, and I was just kind of dived into it. I just started applying to different platforms, got in, and now we're here.
Yeah, so I was randomly going through the ABV gallery and I ran across your piece. I'd never heard of you before, and I'm like, that is dope. It's got a kind of like a John Wick's Matrix dystopian feel to it. I love the detail that came in this particular this home base piece. Can you talk about, number one, where does your style come from? Because it seems like a lot of your pieces have kind of the same feel to them, and I'm really a fan. If you could speak to, yeah, just talk about that, I'd be really interested.
So I really like to make art that feels very cluttered, as you can tell. You know, like I kind of want you to feel overwhelmed and kind of not necessarily disgusted, but you know what I mean? Like you'll look at the scene and it's just like it's all over the place. You know, no matter where you look in this scene, there's going to be some detail that you're going to be able to find. You know, whether it's like if you look to, well, my right of your head, right, you can see like there's a couple books there that are like Catcher in the Rye, which was one of my favorite books growing up, and then you look to the left and so on. There's just all these tiny details. So again, no matter where you look in a scene, there's going to be something for you, and that's what I really like to make. I did kind of subconsciously realize that a lot of my influence come from the books. I don't know if you guys remember, but they were called I Spy. Right. I realized that those were my favorite books when I was growing up, and I think I actually like subconsciously get a lot of inspiration from them. So yeah, it's just I don't really know how I would describe my style other than kind of like just kind of dystopian cyberpunk realism. You know, it's kind of taking the craziness of these like futuristic cyberpunk and just kind of trying to base it in reality, I guess, because I try to keep everything realistic. I'm not going to really have like floating cars that are not real and so on. It's going to be like if we actually went to the future from right now, like if we went to 2060, what would it look like while keeping retro?
That's amazing. So you mentioned you started back in October.
Yes.
When did you sell your first piece? How much did you sell it for? And when did you realize, you know what, I think that I can gain some traction in this, and I'm kind of excited going forward?
Let me go. I will pull up my Super Rare right now and check. So my first piece, it's kind of funny. So
can you share that with us too? You can share that picture with us.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'll just share the. Let's see. Actually, never really used.
Yeah. Let me
share screen. All right, how it says stable. There we go. All right. You see that?
Yep.
Cool. So this was my first piece that I posted. And it didn't do so well. It kind of flopped right off the bat. You know, I kind of came in with higher hopes and it was getting like 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8 and kind of just stood for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put up a couple other pieces, which I actually ended up burning, which is kind of funny. But then I put up this piece, which was very like COVID related. I made it
timely.
I made this piece kind of right after I got home because I was working in on Coachella for a couple performances, and I worked on it for about a month, and then COVID canceled it. So I came home and I was kind of in this fucked up state of just like, what are we doing? Because we're not going to have shows. So I just started making all this like COVID related art. And this was my first piece that sold. So Sir Nigel bid 0.7 and then he bid 0.1, and then I put a list price of 5 and he bought it for 5, which at the time was $2,846.
Wow.
And we can see at the time ETH was $520, which is kind of funny. And then so that was my first piece that did well. And then this was my next piece. And it was kind of funny because I had a couple collectors message me about it and be like, what do you want? And I didn't really know because this was still all new to me. So I was like, oh, I just sold a piece for 5. I guess this is also worth 5. And they were like, no, it's not. Like, you have no backing, you know? And then from there, I kind of went along the mindset of saying, all right, I don't care what I sell it for. I just want to sell it to collectors who are going to appreciate it. Right. And from there, that's how I met Illustrator, Tim. And he purchased this because I tweeted about it and saying like, I'll accept the highest bid tomorrow, 24 hours, whatever it is. This was before they had auctions on Super Rare. So he ended up bidding 1.7 and nobody else actually bid. So he actually upped his bid because this was my birthday. So he was like, happy birthday. So he bid a little more. So it's 2.5, right? And then my next piece that I sold was, I think that one sat for a while. It was this one. It was called Shitty Flight. So I put this one up and I put this Cybertruck up.
Was the Cybertruck, or how close to the Cybertruck was it when Elon had?
I made this the day after. So I posted it at a different time, but I actually made this the day after the Cybertruck was announced. So I had these two pieces, and again, they kind of sat for a while. And I tweeted again. I said, I'll accept any bid over 1 ETH after 24 hours. So Tim saw me tweet that. So he bid on both for 1. It went 24 hours and he got both again. So my kind of mindset here was saying like, excuse me, I don't like, I was saying like, I don't care how much they get it for. I just want collectors who want it. Right. So from there, I knew I already had Sir Nigel, which I ended up speaking to a little later on, who really liked my art and he was keeping an eye on it. And then I also had Tim, who wanted my art, right? So you can see I went from 1 ETH, and then this next sale was 8.5. Because again, it was just, there was a bidding war, right? I created it, West Coast Bill bid, and then a guy named OK bid, and I put it on a reserve for 2.5. Sir Nigel did it, and then or started the auction, and then they had a little bidding war up until 8.5. So at that point, that was kind of where I was like, okay, I think I'm onto something, and I can do this properly. And then my next one had an auction, and it went for 5.3. It actually would have went higher, but Sir Nigel told me he was asleep because this auction was ending at like 3 or like 4 a.m. like Eastern. It was really weird. I think someone started it on purpose at that time, right? And then at that point, I had 2 sales that were both over 5, and then that's when I kind of, excuse me, got into this whole Neuralink series, right? And kind of everything after this point, I've considered part of this series.
That Neuralink series is amazing.
Yeah, I really like it. It's definitely some of my favorite stuff I've made. So this is where it started. And Tim really wanted it. He started the auction and ended up winning it for 7.7. And then from there, I just continued this whole like storyline in my head of like, we obviously all know Elon Musk's Neuralink. I thought, okay, what if we had like some story and it wasn't Elon Musk creating this, and there was like a bunch of different teams of hackers or something that are all trying to like hack your brain or something, right? Stupid story. It doesn't really matter what it is. I just find if I make some kind of a story, making art is really easy, you know? So from there I said, okay, so this first piece, Neuralink version 9, took place in some biohacker's basement, right? And I thought, okay, this next piece, Neuralink 10, would take place in like a Soviet base of some type, right? As if there was multiple teams like trying to get this technology first, you know?
How long does it take you to make one of these pieces?
So it really depends. Most of them take me, I like to put a good amount of time in it. I can create stuff really fast from working in the music industry. Like I'm used to just doing tours when I have to make like 100+ animations in 3 weeks, you know? So it's not new to me working fast, but with crypto art, I like to spend far more time on it. Because it's not just going on a screen for people to watch during a show. It's like people are actually spending real money on it, to collect it. So I wanted to make sure everything was just perfect and exactly how I wanted it. So I think like version 9 took me like a week or so. Version 10 took me a little less. I think it was like 4 days. District 11 took me about a week and a little bit to work on. 12 didn't take me that long. I want to say it was.
Do you start with like a photo in mind, or
no? So I just start with just a blank 3D file, and I just start building it out. I don't sketch anything either. My form of sketching is just kind of placing objects in 3D space and just moving them around till I like it. That's kind of how I work. Yeah, so all of these were just built out pretty quick. Like this piece, let's see, this one was created specifically for 888. He found my work and he told me he really loved this piece, District 11, but it had already sold. So he said, okay, I'll buy Subject 12 for 10 and then make me 2 pieces and I'll buy them each for 20. And that's how these 2 pieces came. And I made them. I'm really happy with how they came out. But again, they didn't take me that long. They took me, I want to say each week, like a week. They were definitely much more stressful to make because they already had like a buyer,
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier to just make art and be like, okay, someone will buy it at some price. But when someone's like, yes, I will pay 20 Ethereum, which is what at the time it was $30,000 and $40,000. It's like, I'm making a single piece of art for someone for that price, so it's stressful. But like I remember when I sent it to him on Twitter and there was kind of a little bit of time before he responded, I was like, oh shit, he hates it and he's not going to buy it. And then he responds it and he sends me like 20 messages at once being like, I love it, you're so amazing, blah blah blah, and then he does it right away and bids on it. So it was kind of stressful, but it was definitely fun to do.
That's the interesting part of the creator. I mean, I'm going to tap into my own story, but I wrote a book and it went to #1 on Amazon for 2 days, and I had success, but I wrote my book just because I wanted to write a book. It was like, I didn't care. I wasn't writing to educate the reader. Like if you found value and entertainment, great. But I wrote it just because I wanted to create something. And what's interesting for me is like, I'd never had any intention to write a second book, but I've definitely had some of my readers, reach out to me and, like over the years and been like, when's the next book coming? When's the next book? And for me, I'm kind of like, ugh. So I can only imagine, like you saying, when you have a buyer, that's a different creative process, even though you're still creating something with an idea for this buyer, but the idea that like, oh crap, like, he's got to like it, as opposed to just creating something that you want to like.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's my biggest stress. Also, that's my biggest stress now when I'm making stuff for Nifty, right? Because Nifty is a whole different beast of a thing. Because you're not as much trying to appeal to a couple people. Like I know a couple people like my cyberpunk aesthetic and that they'll bid on it. But on Nifty, you worry, you're like, will 50 people want it? Will 100 people want it? Will 300 people want it? Which starts to stress you out because, right? Because it's stressful. But then you have to also remember, it's like that doesn't matter, right? Collectors are collecting for you, and as soon as they think that you're making art to try to have them buy it, right? Then nobody's gonna want it. So I try to make sure all my art is just true to me, and I'm never making something specific for someone else. It's always, I'm making something that I would want to collect.
So I believe you have a drop coming up with Nifty in May. A couple of questions. Number one, are you going to keep the same story feel with the dystopian kind of art? Number two, what are your feelings on open editions and raffles and one-of-ones and that kind of thing? Really, really, really curious.
Yeah, so it's going to be a part of the same series. One thing I haven't really talked about this much, but I started Neuralink at like version 9, right? Because it was my 9th piece on Super Rare. But at the same time, I did that because I was kind of thinking like Star Wars, right? I think Star Wars started with episode 4, right? If I remember
Yeah.
correctly, where it leaves them room to go back in time and make 1, 2, 3 and have fun with it, you know? So that's kind of why I did that. So the Nifty drop is probably going to be 4 or 5 pieces that are titled different numbers of 0 to 8. So they're going to be kind of the precursors of Neuralink, if you will. So yeah, it's definitely going to be under the same category. So it'll be pretty similar. There's going to be one piece that directly kind of goes along with home base. It's kind of going to go off of that whole vibe and feel like the same setting. You know, like maybe if you're sitting at the desk at home base and you turn around, what are you going to see? You know, so expanding off that. So I'm excited for that. I'm cool with open editions. Again, none of this is confirmed, you know, for drop mechanics, but I'll probably do like one open, you know, because one thing I'm not in all of this stuff just to make money fast, you know. I always say this, like if I really wanted to tomorrow, I could probably go out and make $1 million in this space. It's actually not that hard to do that, you know. If you do it a different way, like I could make some kind of a series and sell 1,000 pieces on Rareable, or go get a drop on, you know, anything. But I don't want to do that. I want to keep value for my collectors. I don't want to oversaturate it, and so on. So that's the thing about opens that does scare me, you know, especially from the March craziness that we saw when some editions sold 3,000 editions. It's stressful as an artist to see that, because making a lot of sales doesn't mean that your value is going up, you know. That's just how the art world and collecting works. So you do have to keep it scarce, or else there's no meaning for somebody to want to collect your piece if it's one of 3,000, one of 2,000, you know, something like that. So I'm definitely going to do open because I want people to be like, have it be accessible for people. Because I have a lot of people who have told me they want to collect it, but of course they can't afford a one of one for $40,000. You know, like
right.
It's not obtainable for anyone except for the very high percent of crypto people. So I want to give something for them, but at the same time, I don't want it to be crazy. So it'll probably be like one of them as an addition, as an open for like 2-3 minutes or something. And I also, I like the ideas of draws, and all of that. The only thing though that I've noticed from talking with a lot of collectors with draws is it doesn't really feel like, what it feels like is it's getting in the hands of bots and then it's switching from bots over to the collectors, you know, and that's sort of how it works. It's just an exchange from them to the actual collectors, you know. The true collectors don't really get a chance at being the first one to buy it that often. But at the same time, I think draws are really cool because it's literally like winning the lottery. You know, when you win, you could be like, I have this piece that it could be selling really high. Or at the same time, some of them just flop right off the bat. And I paid $2,000 to sell something for 500 a minute later, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, my edition of 50 on Nifty, that was $14.99. It got like 1,200, I think, entries, and then 50 people got it. And then by the end of that night, it was already up to like $10,000. So a couple people got it, and right away we're doing 5, 6, 7x flips. Was pretty crazy.
It's funny because I happen to be one of those people, so I did win the raffle on that.
Oh, did you?
I did, yeah. And again, I saw the piece and I just fell in love with it, and that made me go to Super Rare, and I saw the ambulance, and I'm like, wow, I really love this style. It really speaks to me.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's been cool to watch the people who were able to get it, because there's been a good amount of flips on it. Here, I can go pull it up. So there's been 23 secondary market sales on it, which is pretty crazy with like a secondary volume of like 190,000. But there's an active bid on it for $10,000 and $10,500, and it's been there for like a day now, and nobody has jumped on it, which is sort of crazy to just show like that it is holding value, right? Again, 3 days ago, someone made a global offer of 9,000, and it just stuck, and nobody jumped on it. I think Unsung at one point made an $11,000 global, and again, nobody jumped on it, which is sort of crazy.
It's really interesting, like you mentioned about the drawings, because you know, in the progression that we've seen, like, and we've seen it with NBA TopShot too, where you know the bots, like when it was first come first serve, like you know you can't beat a bot, right?
Yeah.
So especially like for NBA TopShot, like the packs, like you know if we got one pack we were lucky, but then these bots were getting like 2 or 3. Nifty started kind of switching because there was this moment or you know around February where everything was just blowing up, and they were getting all the lowest, like for open editions. Like you know I juiced up my internet. Linux got, like, we both got the top of the line internet to try and you know make ourselves more competitive. And I remember one particular drop, I want to say I got like number 200 out of 500, and one guy literally had 8 bought before mine even went through. And again, like I have like the fastest internet that I can kind of get without being a computer guy. And so the drawing, I thought, actually kind of evened the playing field. So it's kind of interesting that you're saying that like the bots you know are still kind of, I mean obviously they're involved.
Yeah. So the reason, like what people are doing now, because obviously if you enter a raffle or a drawing, you're not paying anything up front, right? You're saying I will pay $1,500 if I get it.
Right.
So what people are doing, if you have enough money, right, you just make like 20 accounts that all have $1,500 in it, and you say, I will pay this. So now your odds just went up, you know, whatever that percent is. And I mean, maybe it would suck if you have your bot accounts and somehow 20 of your bot accounts win it. You know, maybe you're going to be
control the market at least.
Yeah, definitely. Then you might be in a screwed up situation, but that's the big problem right now with it.
The multi accounts, basically.
Yeah, because they're just, and even with this, I can't get to the original page, but it had like 1,100 or 1,200 entries, and now it says there's like 900. Because it's the different bot accounts that have either been deleted or banned, you know.
I want to, you know, we Linux and I joke because Linux is the luck box of the two. I win the lottery on things that just, like, I got one. It was for $2,000, and it was like out of 100. And when I got the email that I got it, I was like, oh, sweet. And then I go to look, and 122 people had tried to get it.
Which one was it?
I got it right here. It was it wasn't even some, but the drawing thing makes you think like it's more rare than what it was. It was Supreme Association.
Oh, I don't know that one. Yeah, but
Sage Vaughn.
Yeah, some of them are just weird like that. And Nifty's kind of been in this weird state right now.
Yeah.
You know, where things aren't selling a ton.
Do you think that they're just doing too many? I mean, it's every single day. You know,
yeah, I think it maybe it's not as much too many, but it's tough. I think people might be doing too many pieces, right? You'll see some drops that'll have like just an absolute ton. You know, I think if you like what G-Monk did was good because he had like 18 of them were like one of one auctions, you know, and that's cool. That's fine if you're going to do something like that. but sometimes people will end up having like 20 or not that much, like 10 or 9 open editions or something like that, and it just starts to get really messy, and not leave much room for people. And then people are also like, the open edition prices are just going higher and higher and higher. People, they're having open editions at times for like $3, $4, or $5,000. It just starts to get into this weird time. I personally think we're past the $1 million drops every night. Like that was March, where basically if you dropped on Nifty, you were going to make $1 million. We're past that. You can probably go and you can see like what tonight did. I mean, Philip did good. Pulled in a good amount. But still, it's just, I think we're past the craziness.
What do you think in terms of celebrity? Because so Steve Aoki had a drop, and I won the lottery for that. Of course, I got I got technically the worst piece of the drop, like the one of 80, and it was. But here's what's so weird to me is that he had an auction right before that, and it went for like almost
800.
Yeah, and then like the bottom just on these pieces. Obviously, if you got the 101 or the 105, you did great. But like, the rest were just. I didn't do those open edition ones.
This is what I mean, where they're just like crazy priced. Like,
but he's a celebrity, and so there's this idea that he's got millions and millions of followers. It should be pretty well.
How I think about that is personally, like, no offense to any big musicians and so on, but like I've talked with a good amount of them for collaborations, and I've kind of turned away most of them because a lot of them feel like they're just seeing the money and they're coming into it,
Right.
And at the same time, again, this isn't specific artists that are doing this, but they don't have as much of an incentive to stay in this world, they're in here making money, and then maybe there's a different venture, that is going to be an opportunity for them, or when they get club contracts back. I mean, I'm happy with that stuff because I work in the music industry, so that's good for me, but at the same time, them, like, maybe they get their club contract back, and then they're like, okay, I don't need to keep trying to keep value for these NFTs because I just got an $80 million contract for 2 years, whereas I think the cool part with a lot of smaller artists, that this is the first time they've ever seen money like this. They've never had big contracts like that. They have so much incentive to stay here and try to keep value for people. I know that's what I'm going to be doing. I love working in the music industry, but I'm definitely going to kind of go 50-50 with it now. When shows are back, I'm going to still be doing NFTs because obviously the income from it is way higher than in working in any industry. So I have a huge incentive to stay here and keep value for my collectors,
right.
Whereas a huge celebrity doesn't have as much. So that's where I really wonder long term. Because again, I also like to think long term with all of this stuff. I'm not trying to make $1 million today. I'm trying to make $30 million over years. That's how I think. So it's going to be really interesting to see how all those play out.
When you talk value, it seems like the big buzzword in the NFT space right now is utility. I see artists burning pieces. I see, hey, if you collect 2 of my pieces, I'll give you an additional piece. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's cool. I think the burning aspect is good to help with the whole March situation, with how March and February were just crazy, with Blau having like the 3,000 plus pieces sold and so on. So when you start having fun with it like that, that's how you keep value. I also think having a situation where like maybe I'll do a drawing of like 20 that only people who have Homebase in their wallet can enter, so again, that'll help with value, and so on. So that all of that is really cool. And I think again, when we start to see even more utility with it, of it getting you more than just a piece of art, which is cool and all. Art is cool. In the traditional art world, there's not much utility with like owning a Picasso. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't get you much other than you have a expensive piece of art. So it's the same with this, but I do think it'll get really cool when there's utility of some sense, or maybe you can like rent out your NFTs or something. Like like I have a one of one NFT, and like I make a deal with, or say I'm the buyer of a one of one NFT, right? And I make a deal also with the artist to make sure they're okay with it. And I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna lease it out to Hilton hotels for their lobby art.
Wow.
Like
Yeah.
that's when we're gonna get into really cool stuff with NFTs. I think we still have a little bit to go with that, and I think people are working on that. But I think that's when we're gonna see a crazy boom, when it's not just people wanting to collect, but you're bringing the business side of it into NFTs.
So let me ask, let's just say, like, I love the idea of like leasing it out to Hilton. Like that'd be awesome. What's to keep them, like, because if I go on the internet, I could basically like kind of screen grab like your art, right? Now, obviously, if it was in a Hilton, your followers, and you'd find out pretty quickly that they were using your art without being allowed to. But it's that's always been the thing. The first obstacle. It's like, well, why would I pay for something that I could print out and stuff? And it's great when you say like the Picasso has no utility. It's like, if I owned a Picasso, how would I can't prove it. At least with this, I can show my wallet and say, like, this is proof of my ownership. Like, because if I had a Picasso, it'd be in like a bank or something like that. You would never see it. And if I showed you, here's a picture on my cell phone of my Picasso. Yeah, right. You've got a Picasso, sure.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's definitely, I almost wouldn't really worry that much about big companies trying to steal art, because again, the community is really good at that, of seeing things. And especially, I mean, if you have a big company stealing your art, honestly, you're just going to get a big fat paycheck probably after a whole legal lawsuit, but, I wouldn't worry as much about that. I think we'll start to have systems that'll make it easy for big companies to know that, like, all right, I am legitimately using this NFT. So yeah, I think it could definitely help that, because we do in the art field, or the digital art field outside of NFTs, have a big problem of that. I've had my art stolen a lot for different projects, and I contact like the managers of the artists who stole my work, and they're like, oh, we didn't even know, because the person we hired is the one who stole it. So NFTs can help with that. Like, what if you just, every time you do any piece of digital art, even for work, like what if when I'm delivering a file, I deliver an NFT with it too, and maybe it has a thing where you can't actually trade it for value. It's only for ownership of a commercial asset. That way it's not like, hey, this commercial asset is now trading on the market for $2 million or something like that, but that could be cool.
What about a physical component? Like, obviously you have a lot of motion in your, yours is more video, but like, is there an idea of like having a print, like a signed print, that when you buy this, like because there are, we had Micah Johnson on here, and Aku comes with a statue. He's also talked about a couple of physical components. There's the Beeple piece. Beeple's had some physical components with his as well. Like, is that an avenue that is something that you're like looking into? And what do you think about that? Because it's almost kind of like, when you do sell a physical component in conjunction with an NFT, there's a bit of kind of like, well, are you not really buying into the future?
Yeah, I feel like, honestly, I mean, I like physical items and all, and like having displays. Like, I'm still trying to figure out a good display to display the NFTs that I own. and I have yet to find one that I like. I feel like something that I would rather do is like from working in the music industry and event industry, I would rather the physical item be like a redeemable event, where it's like, hey, we're going to have this really sick thing where it's like we're in the middle of the desert and there's like a 400-foot LED screen with the art, something like that. Like that would be cool to me way more than just sending a like LCD frame that cost me $200 to someone who I'm sending to them now that they paid like 50 grand for a piece of art, and giving them that, like, it's kind of boring to me. I would much rather give them an event or something, like that's cool to me. Because I mean, events hold a place in a lot of people's heart, like they go to one concert and it's like their favorite concert for their whole life. Like now what if I can tie that also emotion of a piece of art into an emotion of an event, like that's just more value that's going to bring to a piece of art. Because if you go to this event and you really like it, you're probably going to say, all right, now I really don't want to part with this piece. And if you want it, the price is even higher, Right. So again, that's just another way of bringing value, which could be cool to do.
I've got a list of about 5 or 6 or 7 artists that I follow, and you've definitely made my list. When their stuff comes, I get excited and I want to research and find out who they are. I kind of want to ask you the same question. And do you have 5 or 6 or 7 folks that catch your attention and you kind of follow in the art space? And if so, who are they?
Yeah, it's really hard to like just give a list off the bat of like favorite people, because I have a lot. Because there's so many really cool people. This is actually really tough now that I think of it. I mean, let's see who I've collected.
that's
a good way.
Your side.
I mean, like Philip Hadas, like is one of my favorites. Like I've been following him. Like people don't know, for a long time on Instagram, he had more followers than Beeple. He was the largest digital artist for a good amount of time. So I've loved his work for years and years and years. I mean, obviously Beeple too. It's kind of funny to say that now because everybody knows who Beeple is, but like I've known of his art for the last like 10 years, and he's kind of what got me into wanting to do like music industry, because he worked in music and he's definitely been an inspiration for like super long. So he's cool too, and let's see.
Next copy.
Same with like G Monk, like I've known of G Monk's work for years and years and years, and I've always loved his work. It's kind of funny being in any of these art industries now, like being in the motion graphics world before now, it feels like insider trading because it's like I know the people who are doing really well, or like doing well outside of this space. So in theory, they should do well here. Like another artist.
I saw you had Ted Chin. We just Little Red Riding Hood.
Yeah, no, it's kind of, I just met him a little bit ago, but he's cool. We've been talking a lot in Discords and stuff. He's a fun guy.
Yeah, we just had him on the show.
Oh, really?
Episode. Yeah, so that's kind of cool.
I'm trying to find like this other guy, Raul Marx, is an amazing artist. Hopefully I can find him. He's another one where like I've loved his work for years and years and years, and now he's entering this space. So I'm really happy to see what he's doing. Like the funny thing with him is, we see a lot of astronauts in crypto art, and a lot of people use this astronaut that he released for free a couple of years ago. And it's kind of the main astronaut everyone uses in their art. And then like more about this guy, like, again, I've just always loved his work. He's responsible for, like, if you watch the show Westworld, the title sequence for that show, that's him. And so on. So he's like another artist that I just love, like everything that he does, and he has a crazy list of work. And then another person is like Zomax Cornelius. If you've seen his stuff, he's another guy that is one of my favorite 3D artists. in general. This piece, you know, it's sold for 100 ETH, which is crazy. But like every time I have to reinstall my like rendering software that I use to create all my stuff, like his artwork pops up because it's licensed to be used for that by the rendering software, you know? So he's another person where like he's just always been like a legend, you know? So yeah, I mean I feel like there's too many to like choose from, you know? But I feel like my list of artists I love is just like huge.
I'm always fascinated. Like you said, you started when you were about 12.
Yeah.
You know, we're a little older than you. So when you say 12, I'm thinking, you know, 1992 for me. But, you know, when I was growing up, and I'm from a small town in the South, like, you know, if you said you were you wanted to be an artist, you know, or just major in any kind of art, and graphic design wasn't even like that big of a thing, you know, kind of back then. But, you know, it's like, oh man, you're gonna, you know, have, you know, a nice student loan debt for an art degree and become a high school art teacher. Were there people that were kind of, you know, in your youth kind of being like, well, this art thing is nice, but, you know,
thankfully no, because my dad's an architect, so we've just always and then like my sister's an artist too. She's a fine artist. So I just have like an artsy family. So I was always like pushed to do that, you know, like that's been my thing since I was 12, which was like 2009, I want to say 2008, whenever that was. Wow. But this was just something funny that I just remembered. So like this guy, right? This is another artist, his company is Grayscale Gorilla, and he just started selling NFTs. And like I learned all of my beginner stuff and intermediate stuff from him, you know, from his website. So he's another just artist that I just wanted to say that is very like influential in this space, and like everybody knows who he is, you know, like Hawk, I think, uses his like lighting plugins and stuff like that. So he's another cool person. But yeah, I mean, again, going back to what you were saying, I never really had that, thankfully. I just kind of was always pushed to let me do whatever art I wanted to do.
Well, even choosing a career in the music industry, you know, it's a similar, you know, my background, I was a sportscaster. I started when I was 18, 19, you know, while I was in college, and you know, the idea of me wanting to be on television was ridiculous, you know. So, you know, anytime you go into an industry, TV, art, music, you know, that's a pretty big hurdle to get to. But if you've got that family to kind of support you and has an invested interest, you know, and a background, that's really important. And so, you know, I'm impressed. You know, I love the art, but like I love the stories where I'd rather hear that your parents were supportive than to be like, everyone told me not to do it. Like, we hear that all the time.
I'm definitely my funny stories is like, again, I've been in crypto a long time, and this is my next funny story, but I had a lot more of that. Like I had plenty of people tell me like, oh, crypto's not real, don't get into it. And even like I was into Dogecoin back in 2013. That's when I was into Dogecoin. And if I kept all my Doge, I had about 4.5 million of it. That would have been like $750,000, you know. And I sold it all for next to nothing. You know, I can go and look at my Coinbase and I can see me cashing out like, oh, here's 1.5 Bitcoin cashed out for like $1,200 and so on. So it's fun times. But recently,
wait, if I do my math right, that means this was when you were in high school.
Yes, I did Doge in high school. So a funny story is I made this spinning Doge GIF, right? I made this in 2013, December 13th, 2013. I made this crypto related art. So this could be considered like my first NFT. This was pre NFTs because basically I would post these Doge gifts on like the Dogecoin Reddit, and different like Bitcoin Talk, you know, those different forums, and people would gift me Doge for it. You know,
Wow.
like I had for this gift, someone gifted me 100,000 Doge, which would have been 60 grand, you know, if I kept it. But again, I was doing essentially crypto art in 2013, which is kind of funny.
The prodigy.
but basically, I was telling this whole story of this in the Nifty Gateway Discord, and we were just hanging out, and we did a underground auction for it. Right, is what we've kind of been joking about it. Ted did one of them too, and I ended up selling this for 18 grand. And I have one other gift that I made from a long time ago. Let me see if I can find it. Which I'm just holding on to because it's another one that could mint at some point and might be worth a lot. They're not nice looking, you know, they're from 2013. But here, let's see if it plays. See, so it's like Dogecoin and Bitcoin breaks the Dogecoin breaks the Bitcoin. It's not anything special because it was made seven years ago, I think, right? Or 8 years ago almost. And it was like when I was still a beginner, but some like OG crypto art right there.
Wow.
Yeah. But that's
I think you're the first that we could actually consider a true OG, because it's like, you know, especially in the TopShot community, they'll be you know, the OGs of NBA TopShot. It's like, yeah, I got in October, you know? Yeah. But you're going back 8 years. So.
Yeah, no, that's kind of it's funny talking about this with people, because again, like I would have been considered even more of an OG because like I got an email from Maker's Place in 2018 asking me to be on their platform, and I didn't even see it. You know, and if I saw there was a platform that would let me sell my art for cryptocurrency, of course I would have done it because I love crypto.
Right.
So I'm kind of sad about that because I would have been way up higher, you know, right now, but it's fine.
We would have been saying people who?
but yeah, no, this one was funny.
That's awesome.
Again, it's just like definitely some OG stuff.
So what kind of music, I mean, you know, with that being part of your career, what's like in your top iPod? Do people even use iPods now?
I still listen to music with iTunes instead of Spotify. I just prefer it, but kind of go all over the place with all my music, because I listen to music usually all while I'm working, and then also working in the music industry, I listen to a lot of music. So I like to switch it up. I pretty much say I listen to anything but country. That's just my one thing that I don't really listen to. But lately I've been on like an 80s rock kick.
Oh man, don't call it classic just yet.
I think Apple Music calls it classic.
I think it's classic. I'm definitely gonna vote classic. How do you go about selecting some of the music for your NFT pieces? Do you have somebody that composes it for you? Or how is that done?
So as of right now, I'm looking for somebody to compose for me, like for Nifty and Future. But as of right now, it's mostly just me finding different royalty-free music on different subscriptions platforms that I have, and then kind of mashing pieces together and putting like some sound effects and here and there. It's definitely not anything fancy right now, but I'd really like to find someone who's really good at scoring stuff to have them help out. Of course, it's not my thing. I can't do it full justice to what it could be.
I just had this thought. Have you been to Vegas to the Cosmopolitan lobby?
I don't think so. The last time I was in Vegas was Imagine Dragons tour, 2018, I think. And I was at where was I? I was at the Luxor in Mandalay Bay.
Oh, you were way down at the end of the strip.
Yeah.
So Cosmo has what I think is like one of the coolest lobbies, and they've got columns. You could probably pull it up if you wanted to see. And that was when you were talking about like displaying your art in like a hotel, like a Hilton lobby.
Oh, that's cool.
But it's all digital, and it's all changing. Like it'll be like library books, it'll be bubbles, it'll be rain, like it's constantly changing. And I kind of from myself had this visual of, some of your pieces, like how cool would that be, like to kind of walk through a lobby and be in that District 11, like
yeah, like I think that's going to be the cool part of all of this, because we there already is a lot of services that allow companies to get art, but again, a lot of it is just stock. It's not it's not like you're going in one of these lobbies for the most part and seeing like, oh, that's this person's art. I mean, some places do that nicely, but again, for the most part, it's just like, hey, let's toss some lines on the wall, or like,
right.
Let's toss some different geometric patterns.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be cool when more of these places understand that it is really powerful and important to have specific artists. And again, that's going to be a really cool tipping point, I think, because NFTs will be involved in that. Because I feel like we've kind of, again, gone past somewhat of a tipping point with NFTs where they're in some fashion, they're here to stay like forever, Again, I think kind of it'll fade a bit with the collecting aspect of huge collecting, again, it's hugely oversaturated right now. Like we're having every artist come in here. I think we'll get a little closer to the traditional art field where like in the traditional art field, you can't just go and draw a picture and say, hey, now I want to go put this in Sotheby's. You can't
Right.
do that. But a lot of people are thinking NFTs should be like, hey, I just figured out my software. I've been using a software for 2 months now, and now I want to go be on Nifty Gateway, right? That can't happen, for longevity. You do need somewhat of curation, while still not keeping it gatekeeping. That makes sense. It's really tough. It's just how is this going to be made to obviously break down the barriers of the previous art field, which has a lot of those barriers, but at the same time, how do we keep it longevity wise and not just be a phase that people will say like, oh, do you remember the NFT scams? Like we can't let it get to that.
Right. Of course. Yeah. I look at it, and I always make the comparison to online poker. It's just a little before your time, but when the internet was first kind of really becoming a mainstay in poker, especially, I knew some professional poker players that were, that transitioned to online, and they were literally kind of training like their friends and relatives to like basic poker, because the poker was just so easy. You didn't really need to know much. And then of course, as it progresses, then you get to where like those poker players actually overtook the poker world, because for a long time, the live poker player was always considered the best, but these online poker players, they took over. And now, the best poker players in the world all pretty much started from online. And I think that the NFT world, like any technology, there's a bunch of early adopters, which I think we are, and obviously, and then there's a level of you got to overcome it where people just like it becomes accepted, just like having the cell phone, in your pocket all the time.
Definitely.
Having Alexa in your house, or I mean, I even go back even further when CDs came out. I'm like, what? You can't record on this? Like, CDs aren't going to last, And you had a cassette player in your car until then. You had a CD player in your car.
Now you don't even have those.
Yeah.
I don't think my car even has one.
I bought a Justin Bieber. That was the last CD I ever got. It was and I'm proud of that. But I was in line at Target, and anytime you go to Target, you go in to get one thing and you walk out with like new socks, a Justin Bieber CD, and a whatchamacallit candy bar. But I'm curious to, as saturated as everything is right now, and I would say like this is still kind of encompassing really the first year, even though like you showed us, your stuff from 2013, like there was things that existed that are very, very rare that people probably just don't even know about. But like, is there like some merit that despite it being saturated, like 5-10 years from now, it'll be like, yeah, but this was one of those pieces from the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the .com boom, right? That's what I hear a lot of people referencing it to, is the time where like you had a .com, you could flip it, you could sell your website to somebody else for an absolute ton of money. I think that's kind of where we're at, and we're crypto moves so fast, maybe we're leaving that a little bit, where kind of the big players or even maybe the smaller people are leaving it and about to do really well. If you look at the big players at the .com boom, they're not the big players now. Amazon and so on and Apple were pretty small. And you had like Gateway and other big computer companies were at the lead, and they're gone now. So I think it's going to be similar and at the same time, like plenty of new web services came way after the .com boom and are doing amazing, So it's the same thing, I think, with crypto and crypto art. We're going to have a lot of artists that are in this space right now, and they're going to continue to do really well after this, and this is going to be their new thing. And at the same time, we're also going to have a lot of artists who tried it out, maybe had a couple really good pieces, and then say, oh, this isn't working out any well. I figure I should just go back to my normal job now. I think that's going to happen, but at the same time, we're still also going to see like new players just pop up out of nowhere and do really well. Like what Airbnb, I think, is huge now on their stock, but they weren't a couple years ago. I think it's kind of going to be the same thing.
Exactly. I know Jason and I were talking about a piece of rare art, and I think you picked up one. Didn't you recently buy CryptoPunk?
I did, yes.
What went into that decision? How did you pick the one you picked?
And join the club. Expensive.
I'm so jealous right now. Oh my goodness.
Do you have one?
I don't. We were close, but we didn't pull the trigger on it.
Yeah, let me go find mine. I never remember the number, but 2980. Yeah, this is me. This is mine. I got the messy hair, handlebars, and an earring. Cost me 20.49 Ethereum.
Wow.
Which is just freaking ridiculous. 43 grand.
Now, did you take that one because of price or because you think that
so it was a bit of a mix. It was kind of funny. So I was sitting down with a guy named Sergio and a guy named Tony. I think his name is Tony Herrera. I think that's his last name. I don't want to say it wrong though. But he's CryptoPunk whale, right? He has got a top punk owners. He's number 25. He has 67.
Oh my goodness.
Right? So I was on the phone with them, and they really helped me like figure out what I was looking for and so on. I was gonna get one that was maybe a little higher. Like my point where I was okay with doing it was 25 ETH. Where I was like, this is a good investment, especially with Christie's coming up. And if it's not a good investment, whatever, it's Ethereum, So they just kind of helped me out, and I decided down to like, okay, I think I like one with messy hair. This was actually my favorite one, but I didn't want to pay. I think he had it listed. Yeah, Tony had it listed for 37, which I just couldn't do, obviously. But I kind of decided that's what I wanted, and then we went and looked at like the ones that were available. And this was literally the cheapest one. It was the bottom floor, but out of the 20 to 25 ETH range, it was my favorite. Although I did find one more that I love. Hopefully I can find it funny.
And when you buy something like this for that much, like, I mean, what at what point do you get to where like you would sell it?
I don't know.
You know,
It's tough. Like maybe this is one of those things that I don't think I'll ever sell no matter what, you know, and I was talking with Tony a lot and I mean, so again, like with crypto, I've been talked out of a lot of things in the past, which if nobody talked me out of it, I would be a millionaire, you know, like I would literally have an absolute ton of money if I didn't let people out, like talk me out of things. So my situation now that I'm doing, especially now that I'm doing crypto art and I am getting a sizable amount, you know, of ETH, I'm saying, okay, I am going to take some chances and I'm going to do things that maybe someone would say like is fucking stupid. You know, the fact that I paid $43,000 on a fucking 24 by 24 pixel thing, you know, but there's a lot of possibility with it, you know. I guess there's some crypto punk person who their thing that they say a lot is eventually every crypto punk is going to be worth $1 million, you know, and maybe that's possible. You know, there's only 10,000 crypto punks, 3 of which have been burned accidentally. So there's actually 9,907 crypto punks, you know, and I mean, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of room for growth, and why not?
how do you accidentally burn a crypto?
I guess so. I was talking with Tony, and he was really helping me a lot because he's been in it for so long, and he was saying people just accidentally send them to wrong accounts.
Oh no.
Like addresses that nobody has, you know. So maybe someone will eventually have that address maybe when they go and make an account. But I mean, actually, I think in theory it shouldn't. I think nobody will have another address if it already has an asset.
Right.
It won't make a new address for somebody. So those are gone forever.
I think one thing that I'm trying to do is, much like you mentioned, take bigger swings on some stuff. There's some more speculative assets I've been looking at. What else do you consider like kind of far-fetched, but it's kind of catching your attention these days?
I honestly not much. I haven't gotten back into like heavy crypto stuff since like 2013, you know, the shitcoin era is what we called it.
Right.
I had a ton of different coins back then, you know, like all the different ones. So I don't really know what it's kind of stressful now, like looking at all those different coins and all these ones, and it makes me nervous. It's much more easy for me to say that like a crypto punk looks cool and there's value in that compared to somebody saying, hey, buy this coin that I don't understand, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm buying more NFTs too. I'm buying, I think I'm up to like 20 or so.
Yeah.
Not a ton, but who knows if it pays off in a couple of years, that could be a lot of money. You know,
So
you never know.
what about the music? I mean, you know, obviously with this COVID and, you know, some states are opening up much more, you know, liberally than I live here in Los Angeles, and we're going to be the last for everything. But even in California, they're actually allowing limited attendance for like professional basketball games and baseball games. You're not leaving the music industry behind.
No, I'm definitely not leaving it. Because I mean, who knows about NFTs? I don't want to burn bridges.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm not leaving NFTs, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna kind of do this happy medium, figure that out, and still do shows. You know, I think I'll be more picky with it. You know,
Right.
I definitely don't need to do as many really cheap, really stressful projects that I'm not going to get much out of other than a couple $1,000, you know, for like things like that. Like those days are hopefully over, you know,
Yeah.
If all goes well. But at the same time, I mean, I love doing music industry stuff. It's a lot of fun to me. Because again, I like making art that is on a huge screen. Like if we go to my website, you know, like this is what tutorial. If we go to my website, like I'm used to making visuals for like Coachella, you know, where it's like a 200-foot wide screen, things like that. That's what I really like to do. Not as much something where it's going to be on a tiny screen. So this is fun to me, you know.
That's amazing. Wow.
And I think at the same time, I can also try to see how I can bring value to my NFTs with music. You know, like what if it's strategic where I use like one of my NFTs, right? Like say I use HomeBase as a visual, you know, and I let the artist know too. So I'm like, you just so you know, like you don't own this visual. You can't use it for other things other than this show, you know. But what if you do see like Travis Scott with HomeBase behind him, you know, and then everyone is posting it on their Instagrams and things like that. That could bring value to HomeBase, which could be cool. So that's something I'm going to think of a lot when music comes back, especially because if NFTs are still doing well, the whole music industry knows about NFTs. Everyone's talking about it. It's everything, you know, right now. So it's going to be really interesting to see how different artists want to play with NFTs with live music events also.
Did you ever do EDC? Did you ever do?
I've had visuals at EDC, but I've never actually been to it.
Oh man, but, I'm not a big festival carnival guy, but the EDC was always concurrent with the World Series of Poker in Vegas, and I would be grinding all night long, and still be up when the sun was coming up, but the buses would be coming back at like 5, 6 in the morning, and you'd see these wiped out fairies and dragons and just people. Yeah. It looked like a good time. The videos all cool, but
EDC is cool because it's all EDM and EDM takes the visuals and lighting super seriously. So EDC is cool. Yeah. Never been though.
Yeah, that's kind of why I actually thought like Steve Aoki, like his whole collection, like, would have been a little bit more well received. Yeah. On the lower end of stuff.
I think Steve Aoki's one out of a lot of them will hold value more than like Kygo, because Steve Aoki is tied with I'm gonna butcher his name, but Antoni Tedesco. I don't know if that's how I say his name actually, but I've known of him a long time, and we've talked here and there, so on. And he's an artist has a following, So the fact that it's a musician tied with an artist is a big thing. So as long as both of them continue to do NFTs and hold value, I think that'll help. But I wouldn't have as high hopes for drops that are specific to a musician without an artist perspective. Sure. Like again, no offense to the Kygo drop, but it was only connected with like a studio, like at the very bottom of the description, they said the studio that made the art. And you could tell it was just like hey, can you guys make this for a couple $1,000s? And then we're going to go try to sell it for as much as we can. It wasn't hey, let's do this a collaboration for 50-50, and if it was a collaboration for 50-50, it might have pulled in way, way more money. That's the thing.
Yeah, I also went with Halsey. I got lucky and got one of her very interesting pieces. I got
That's another one where I think that could possibly hold value.
Hemicrania is the one I got. It's like a skeleton looking thing with its throat ripped out. Of course, it was a drawing, so it wasn't exactly the one I was hoping to get, but she's she's kind of like a dark artist as a musician too, popular, but still has that I don't think she's like Billie English, but kind of. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of room for some of them to keep value.
Mhm.
And then some of them I don't have as high hopes where they seem like they were really just cash grabs, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean the two drops that you just said I think are ones that could keep value. And they were way more thought out than a lot of other drops that I've seen.
Here's hoping.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you sharing your screen.
Yeah, no problem.
Alex. If I think if you can pull that, there we go. Linux, where are you at? Do you have any more questions?
I think I'm good. Yeah, no, this is very informative, and I personally think one of the better interviews that we've done.
Yeah, this was fun.
I definitely think the hosts were really good with their questioning. Like, primo. No, you're great, Alex. Before we let you go, where do you reside? Are you in New York? Is that right?
Yeah, so I'm in Connecticut specifically. But yeah, I say greater New York City area.
You're not in Avon or Bristol, are you?
I am not, no.
Oh, thank God. My good one of my best friends from Avon, and then of course ESPN's in Bristol, and I would feel really bad for you if you lived in those places.
No,
There's not much
those are some very boring places.
Well, we have Linux in Chicago. I'm in Los Angeles, so especially with you being in New York, have you had Chicago pizza?
I was gonna say, I have strong opinions about pizza. So I eat pizza called New Haven, Connecticut. There's a couple places. One is called Sally's and one is called Pepe's Pizza. That is the best pizza you will ever get.
Oh my goodness!
It'll destroy Chicago. Here,
wow.
if you go in Google right now, if you go and Google top like best pizza in United States, right? The first one is gonna be it's almost always gonna be Pepe's Pizza.
Wow.
So
or at least it's gonna be. It depends on like who's doing the rating, but it's always gonna be in like the top 5 at least. Almost always.
What makes it so amazing? What is it?
It's hard to explain. It's a different style. It's called bar pizza, so it's really thin crust, usually like super charred crust. And it's all like wood fired. It's not everyone loves it, but it's really good.
It's like when you go to a restaurant that's like kind of fancy and they have like their fancy version of the pizza. I am the guy that I wanted the grease dripping off my chin. Like,
oh, this is that. This is not fancy pizza. I'll show you. It's like their original pizza doesn't even have cheese on it. It's just sauce and grated Parmesan.
I do like the New York City soup pizza, that like brick.
This is it.
Okay, that's not what I was expecting. I was thinking it's the Domino's like thin crust, like on.
No, this is like real thin crust. Like,
well,
you'll have to, if you're ever out here, let me know. It's the best pizza. It's definitely very different than Chicago. You know, like Chicago, you have a whole, I don't even know what you want to call it, just this massive thing, you know, which is good, but you eat one slice thick. And you're good.
It's like a pizza cake. Yeah, it's
literally.
Real thick. It's real thick.
See, I'm stuck in Los Angeles, and
got no good pizza there.
It's not terrible, but it's we know our lane. Like,
the only good pizza I've had there is this place I think called like 800 Degrees. I want to call it. I think that's it. The only somewhat okay pizza I've had, because I'm in LA a lot for music industry. I'm there like half the year.
Yeah, I mean, the good part about pizza, period, is that like the worst pizza is still good pizza. You know, like,
for the most. I've had some bad pizza though.
If it's really burnt, I'm not that turns me off. Like I can, or if it's like overloaded with different but just a straight cheese pepperoni, like it's kind of hard to, find like a really bad one.
I promise you, this would be the best you'll ever have.
So we also, sticking with the food topic, we were trying to figure out like, where does Chicago place in like the top food cities And if you've been to Chicago, Alex? Yep.
I actually haven't.
Okay.
Oh no.
Well, then you're going to have to, based
I'll have
on
to come sometime.
reputation, we definitely think like New York and New Orleans and Vegas are probably the three best. But Chicago is up there as well. We did this search in Chicago. What was the highest that Chicago was in the world that we found? Was it like 40?
Something like that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And yet Charleston, South Carolina was 5th in the world.
Well, that rating was obviously that
one was skewed. But
that's funny.
But we always but I always say like New York is like with pizza and just the ability to get like some of the best food. There's a great steakhouse that I go to called Keen's in Manhattan. I think it's Manhattan. Like it's on 34th. And that's like my favorite steak to get.
The best that I've had is there's this place in a town called Norwalk, Connecticut, called Washington Prime. They're voted #1 in Connecticut for steakhouse, and it's the best steak I've ever had. It's so good.
I think I want to move to Connecticut tomorrow.
Connecticut's good. We have and then we have a lot of seafood and stuff too. I still miss. I grew up in Boston though, a little north of Boston.
You got the happy medium.
Yeah, but it's a.
Well, you got Foxwoods Casino nearby too, right?
There is, yeah. We have Foxwoods and Mohegan.
Yeah, Mohegan Sun. Yeah, Connecticut's not. I knock my buddy.
Not the worst place, but it's pretty boring at the same time, depending on where you're at. If you're on the coast on the bottom, like New Haven West,
right.
You're fine. When you start to go the other direction, it just gets real boring real quick.
Yeah, it's where you spend your youth in New York or Boston, and then you move to Connecticut when you have some kids and have a little bit more money.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
You don't want to get too far away from the city.
Yeah, the prices here are getting crazier too because everyone is leaving the city, especially with COVID. They were like, we don't want to live all on top of each other, so the prices everywhere else are just surging because of it.
Wait, they're in Connecticut. They're going.
So people are leaving New York City, from everyone living like on top of each other. They're saying like, oh, maybe I don't want to live, in COVID like ridden buildings, and I want to like have a house, So the housing prices have been crazy out here.
I have to commend you for this in that, in this pandemic that we've had for the last year plus. I listen a lot to Joe Rogan and Adam Schultz, Andrew Schultz, like a comedian. He created like this whole thing during COVID and like this like 15-minute like quick take talk show. There's been like Bert Kreischer, another comedian, started doing these like drive-in comedy shows. Anybody that was able to take this pandemic and turn it into something positive and seize an opportunity, like I have a lot of respect, and I think that you're certainly in that category. Finding, having your industry kind of ripped away from you, and really we still don't know when are concerts really going to come back, and certainly music festivals. So to find something and then just kind of run with it, like I think that's awesome, and it's actually very inspirational now that we're coming out of the pandemic to kind of remember those stories.
Yeah, it was a really hard year because of course there was a good amount of time when I just was doing absolutely nothing. I only really did a couple. The bigger things I did was like a bunch of Megan Thee Stallion stuff. But besides that, it wasn't much work. So it was a nerve-wracking year, and then crypto art happened. Kind of changed everything.
I just wish this had happened like in May. Like even just doing the podcast, like this would have been so much better. I got really good at Dr. Mario, but I would trade that that success for doing.
I think there's a big part to say about crypto art and NFTs with COVID, because we're all just stuck inside, and it's like, what can we do? And we can have fun on the internet doing all this stuff. So
absolutely,
I'm excited for like physical events though related to NFTs again. they've always had like what do you call them, conferences for like Bitcoin, and there's been NFT specific conferences too. But
Have you ever
now
gone to any of those?
I actually I haven't, but
Yeah.
I've wanted to in the past, but I haven't gone. But I think they're definitely going to get a lot more traction now. So should be
That
cool.
was, yeah, that was kind of what I've been a big proponent of whenever we get through this to have like, especially like an NBA TopShot convention, you know, because that community is, you know, all the communities are very tight and they're all kind of intertwined. You know, like to what, like next year in Vegas, like just have this big NFT convention and to actually kind of meet all these people that you've been talking to on Discord. Like,
Yeah, there is going to be is one of my collectors. He's a poker player guy. And he's all in Vegas. It says, okay, so announcing Token Smart Vegas 2022, which is going to be like all NFT and crypto related. That should be fun.
2022.
Yeah, so let's see when
Yeah.
lined up for.
It's so far away.
Yeah, I know. March 22nd, 2022.
Yeah, that's
So,
fine.
a little over a year from now. But
Well, maybe if anyone's going to push the envelope and open things up and allow big things, it's certainly Vegas. They've been hurting a lot. So
yeah,
we'll have to see. And I'm hopeful that this summer, you know, the ballparks will be back and more full. And you know, I got my vaccine begrudgingly, but I got it. So
yeah.
yeah.
Same here.
Well, I think that's going to
Cool.
do it for us. Just want to say again, thanks, Alex. Of course, always happy to have Lennox on, the big man in the corner. And Alex, before we go, just let everyone know where they can find all of your work and how they can support you.
Yeah, so on every platform, it's just going to be NessGraphics. Twitter is going to be Ness_graphics. But yeah, that's where you can find me. Just type that in, and you should be able to find all my stuff.
Perfect. Thanks again, Alex, for coming on the show. And you know, we love your art. We're going to throw some support for TopShot NFT. We're out.